Hello and welcome to another episode of Pathological. We are your hosts. I'm Julianne Boyd.
I'm Cassidy Shirts.
Quick, we're going to tell you what we're going to do in this episode. It is the last installment of the Adolf Hitler series. We're going to talk about how he possibly gets appointed to chancellor of Germany, then overthrows the government to become a dictator. And we're going to talk about how he passes Nuremburg Laws that are kind of like the Jim Crow laws in the United States. We'll talk about something called the Babyn Yar Massacre, where they execute thousands and thousands of people in horrific manner. We're going to talk about his horrible health practices and the crazy quack of a doctor, Dr. Morell, who has him both on cocaine and testosterone and fecal matter bacteria. Join us for all of these and more in the episode. Thanks for joining us. See you in a second. All right, let's jump right in. First thing I have to say at the top of the episode is why on earth during a Hitler episode was I wearing a Blondie t-shirt?
Oh no, Julie.
Yeah, I immediately was like, oh, no, what have I done?
Yikes.
Oh,
That's
well.
not, yeah.
Anyways,
Whoops.
we're just going to hop right back in, and I'm not wearing anything.
Julie getting canceled immediately.
No, potentially inflammatory. So, we talked about the quiet years when he just casually traumatized 4 women and like groomed them and peed on them or had them pee on him to get his jollies. Ugh. So that was 1926 to 1929. Adolf Hitler for you, ladies and gentlemen, getting peed on and pooped on for fun.
Yeah, that's insane. No, like he couldn't be any crazier in my head. And then learning that, I'm like, okay.
It's like, oh, there's
anytime you think that it can't get worse, it always does.
It really does. So this little man, the epitome of the little man, begins right after 1921 to start laying the groundwork to really create like a government in waiting, because he is not yet a part of the government. He's not an elected official. He's just part of this like outgroup, the Nazis. They're not in power yet. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how they structured that, and it's annoyingly organized.
Dang it.
I know, he's got some skills, and I'm really annoyed every time I have to admit that. So, are you ready?
Yes.
Hitler divides the map of Germany into 34 districts, and each district has a leader. The districts are divided into circles, which seems kind of like a silly shape to use because there's inevitably going to be overlap. Whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
That part, he's dumb.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
And then each circle has a leader, and within each circle, they're divided into groups. And there are little groups with group leaders. So, unfortunately, the hierarchy is like quite organized.
Yeah.
And they have like an actual really good protocol on keeping everyone throughout Germany and the Nazi Party informed of like the latest policies and the latest horrific things that they want to talk about. Hitler even thinks of the children, the kinders, and he creates the Hitler Youth. It's designed to indoctrinate and militarize children, basically. So, real winner.
He's thinking of children even more than in the last episode when he was thinking of children.
Oh, you're right. Okay, he's thinking of them in a non-romantic sexual way.
I don't like him thinking about children in any context.
That's true. Do not think of the children, Hitler.
Please do not think of the children.
Because it was ages 10 through 18, starting them really young. He wanted them to have like a place in the Nazi Party and to feel like they belonged, I guess, but to also have them start like tattletaling on anybody not following the rules. There's just kind of tragic stories about the Hitler Youth, like telling on their neighbors, and that's later on down the line when it gets much more militaristic. This is still at the very beginning.
I can't remember if we brought up Jojo Rabbit yet.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, we did.
Or maybe that was...
I don't know if we did or not.
That was in the episodes we didn't ever air.
Yeah,
Anyways.
we may or may not have some unreleased Hitler files.
Yeah. That makes them sound way cooler than they are. We're never releasing them because we deleted them. They're gone forever.
Yeah, because they
were
sucked.
too bad.
They didn't, but
Jojo Rabbit,
yeah,
he was part of the Hitler Youth,
yeah,
and they kind of tried to make it fun to entice children.
yeah.
Being a Nazi is fun. It's
yeah.
not.
That's such a good movie.
It was such a
And-
good movie. Scarlett Johansson's really,
Yeah.
she really fits.
Mhm.
She has a very European look to her face, very classic,
Yeah,
classical, I guess, bone structure.
mhm.
so she
She's
really
very
fits.
beautiful.
Very beautiful. And I think they did a really good job actually of molding together the humor and the horror of that time period. It's
Mhm.
kind of a
Yeah.
comedy.
No,
So
it's
Same with
funny.
the money movie, and you were saying funny at the same time, so it hijacked my brain. I was like, money. Same with the movie Inglourious Bastards. They do a really good job of being tongue in cheek and humorous, but also this is a
Yeah.
horrific period of time.
Mhm.
And to be honest, I'm going to try to do the same here because we're going darker and darker as time goes
Yeah.
on, but we still need to find a way to laugh about it because otherwise we would just cry the whole time.
Yeah,
And so I don't want it to come off as disrespectful. We're not in any way disrespecting any of the survivors, victims, people that really were just completely had their rights taken away from them, treated horribly by this regime. But it was just a really long disclaimer, I guess.
regime.
We're in 1936 now, and the Nazi youth organizations, well, I'm jumping ahead just for a second and then going back. In 1936, the Nazi youth organizations actually went from just a fun youth program that you could be a part of to absolutely compulsory. Not so fun
Okay.
anymore. You have to be a part of it.
Required.
And it's illegal at that point in 1936. Germany made it illegal to be a part of any other youth group. Church youth groups
Oh.
were made illegal. Boy Scouts was made
Oh,
illegal. So,
Good.
yeah. The way to make something really fun for youths is to make it compulsory and
Yeah.
every other option illegal.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so back to 1929. Germany is actually stable right now. The economy is doing great. Civilians are pleased with how this now decade-old liberal democracy is running.
Mhm.
It's starting to run well. The president is Paul von Hindenburg. He is 6'6", towers over other people, especially stupid little Hitler, who's 5'8", 5'9".
Yeah.
He is a World War I war veteran, this Paul von Hindenburg. It's also kind of a great name. And he has support from Germans all across the political spectrum, which is also kind of unique and kind of great for the country. They're feeling more nationalistic and
Mhm.
harmonious, I guess, across the parties than they have in a really long time. And so they've also used the loans from the United States that they got to rebuild a lot of public structures. So airfields, public swimming pools, people are just going swimming and having a great time. Everything's going great until one day, October 29th, 1929. And for any history buffs out there, that is the Wall Street stock market crash,
Okay.
which thrusts not only the United States, but basically the entire world because of how intermingled the economies are, into a global depression.
Yeah.
It is the most devastating financial crisis that has been seen, that affected the most countries for the longest period of time. The United States suddenly is really hard for cash, and they need loans. They need those loans that they gave to Germany repaid kind of desperately. And so Germany was doing great, and they are suddenly not going to be doing so great because they need to repay all these loans to the United States.
Yeah. Ooh.
So their perfectly humming economy is just
Ooh.
grinds to a halt. Unfortunately, and we've talked about this before, ever the opportunist, this is great for Hitler
Oh, that's true.
because suddenly Germany is going to be
In
searching for
crisis
meaning.
again. Yeah.
And in crisis again, exactly. So the Nazi Party has had really slow growth for quite a few years. It slowed pretty much to a crawl during those years of 1926 through 1929. barely reaching 100,000 members in a country of 60 million. And so the Reichstag, as they call it, which is the parliament, that's what they call the parliament. So, ergo vis-a-vis the legislative branch that passes laws in the German government. They start to devolve quickly into infighting little factions.
Okay.
And so it's rendered kind of completely ineffective as a legislative body that can help at all to try and hamper the sky-high unemployment rates now and the inflation rates. They're really not doing anything because they're just fighting amongst themselves.
Okay.
So President Hindenburg and the chancellor at the time, and just real quick, because I didn't really know this as part of the political structure in Germany at the time, but the president and the chancellor are kind of over different parts of the government. So as far as hierarchy goes, they're kind of on the same level.
I think that I'm kind of dumb because I thought the chancellor and the president were the same thing of Germany.
Don't call yourself dumb.
Okay,
Don't do that to yourself.
That's my bad.
No.
I thought that the president was what they would call the chancellor. Like the prime minister kind of thing.
I almost guarantee you people listening will have thought the same thing.
I've never thought they had two separate.
Yes, they are two separate
government
titles.
Yeah.
They're two separate titles. And then of course when Hitler takes over, he just makes them one and the same.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That may be why you thought that.
Yeah.
So at this point, President Paul von Hindenburg and the chancellor, whose name is Heinrich Brüning, they decide, you know what? Let's just drain the swamp. Let's get rid of as many parliamentary people as we can because they're not getting along and no laws are being passed. And we are just at a standstill on how to help pull ourselves out of this Great Depression. So they hold kind of a special emergency parliamentary election. Hitler wastes no time and is like, this is our chance. Let's get as many Nazis as we possibly can into parliament.
Okay. Classic.
Yeah, you see his strategy.
Yeah.
It's very strategic, annoyingly. He starts to hold thousands of rallies all throughout Germany to drum up excitement about the Nazi Party and to get people more, not only more excited, but understand more about the Nazi Party. Because, again, there's only 100,000 members in the entire country, and it's a 60 million person population.
Yeah.
He travels around Germany. He's making speeches. He's posing for pictures. He's kissing babies on the head. He's shaking hands, doing the whole thing. And in September of 1930, the Nazis received 6,371,000 votes, which is approximately 18% of the population of Germany, votes for the Nazis. So that means that they are entitled to 107 seats in the German Reichstag, the German parliament.
Okay.
And just like that, they go from this teeny tiny party that isn't really well known to the second largest political party in all of Germany.
It's so crazy. I think we've already said this before, but it's crazy how he rose to power legally.
Yeah. I know.
Through the system.
It's very jarring.
Yeah.
You don't want that to be the case. You want to think that he had this coup with thousands and thousands of stormtroopers storming the Capitol and taking over by force. But no, he actually ends up gradually getting elected into office. And I'll go into that right now. How on earth did this happen? I think that's a big question on a lot of people's minds. Over the next 3 years, between 1930 and 1933, is when he's trying to climb his way up that political ladder to the point where he's at that chancellor-president level. And a few key things are happening during these 3 years. Nazi Party members that are in the parliament, remember now they have 107 seats, so and that is a formidable presence in parliament.
Yeah.
And they create... because of Nazi leadership feeding them this information, they say, hey, you need to create kind of fake gridlocks. Just be hard to get along with, kind of try to prove that democracy is a failure. We have all this room for discussion and we can't pass any laws. See, democracy is really screwing us over as a people. And so they do that over these 3 years. Another thing, the Nazi Party starts to create civil unrest on purpose. They're manufacturing these issues and then pretending like, oh, it's democracy's fault that Germany's not doing well. The way they do this is they have all those stormtroopers, the SS troops, and they have them brawl in the streets with communist groups and Marxist groups violently. And it gets so out of control that there's like real civil unrest and major pockets throughout Germany.
Okay.
It kind of forces President Hindenburg and Chancellor Brüning's hand. They have to intervene. And unfortunately, this intervention leads to them eventually passing laws against some civil liberties. So you can kind of see how the stage is being set up for Hitler to just come in and take over.
Yeah.
And civil liberties are already being taken away, not by Hitler, by the president. Things like freedom of speech began being more and more controlled, and freedom of assembly, because they have this huge fear of all these small, like, warring groups.
What a great way to get rid of that. Get
Freedom
rid
of
of the
assembly.
freedom of assembly. Yeah.
Yes.
That was
and
like,
they did it as a
Yeah.
calculated strategy.
totally.
It grows so extreme in one part of the country, in Prussia, which is one of the names of the 16 states in Germany. So it would be like if, like, New Hampshire. So it's one of the northern states. New Hampshire, let's pretend suddenly it's like declared a national state of emergency. How horrible all the infighting is becoming between the Nazis, the small paramilitary groups of Marxists, communists, etc. So President von Hindenburg and the Chancellor ultimately place the Chancellor Brüning as the Reich Commissioner, which is what they called the, I guess, like the governor of Prussia.
Okay.
Okay, so they just wipe out the politics in Prussia and say, okay, now Chancellor Brüning is just in charge. And so that kind of unilaterally, without involving any other politicians, they just damage Prussia forever. It no longer has a bunch of different political parties that are campaigning, and then the one that gets the most votes wins and becomes the Reich Commissioner, which is akin to like the governor, like governor of Georgia or governor of Utah.
Okay.
So instead, it would be like the president is like, now I'm in charge of Utah. Okay. Instead of Utah having a governor, it would suddenly be like the president of the United States is in charge of Utah and all of its abilities to pass laws. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that
that
make sense?
Yes.
So it's a big deal. That's a big problem.
Definitely.
Yes. A major breach of liberties and like trust from the German people too. So, and at the same time, the chancellor changes several times, not several times, but at least 3 times during these 3 years. And these 2 chancellors, oh my goodness, this guy couldn't have more CHs in his name. Schleicher. Chancellor Schleicher and von Papen. They turn out to be really self-serving, just sycophants. I really love that word, and I feel like you have to say it that way. So brown nosers, right?
Yeah.
They are just sucking up to the president and trying to gain more and more power as the chancellor. And they are also trying to whisper into Paul von Hindenburg, the president. They're trying to whisper into his ear and say, you know what? This democracy thing isn't working. Like, let's try a military dictatorship for just a while. So again, this isn't Hitler. These are other totally bad faith players creating an atmosphere that once it's created, Hitler can just ride right in on his horse and take over.
Yeah.
So it's actually not just Hitler that we have to blame for how horrible Germany ended up being for the next like decade. It was set up by a lot of bad players.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
So Franz von Papen, that chancellor, one of those bad sycophantic chancellors.
Sycophant.
Yeah. There's an episode of Friends where Phoebe calls someone a sycophant, and it's like totally not used the correct way. Because it kind of sounds like it would mean like psychopath or something.
Yeah.
But it means like a suck up.
Okay.
Anyways, I always remembered that as a kid. You sycophant. Anyways, it's a great diss. So Franz von Papen bottles. I don't know how to say it. Poppin.
I'm thinking of Mary
P-A-P-E-N.
Poppins. I don't know.
Yeah. He is quoted as once saying, by the way, he hates Hitler.
Okay.
He says, Hitler will come to power, and within 2 months, we will have pushed Hitler so far into the corner that he'll squeak like a little girl. So this shows you that he really didn't think of Hitler as a threat.
Yeah.
And he is not the only one. So many people at this time in German politics just didn't think of Hitler as a threat. It's very clear now that they didn't realize how much of a worshipful, kind of reverent attitude people had towards Hitler as the leader of the Nazi Party. Because the Nazi Party still seemed like this fringe group.
Yeah.
But they creep out of nowhere and end up taking over, as we know. Von Papen is one of the most influential politicians in getting Hitler actually elected. Because what happens is von Papen and Hitler become vice chancellors. They kind of are co-chancellors together under Paul von Hindenburg. In addition, there's big bankers and business owners, so like the really wealthy oligarchs of the country, lobby super hard to get Hitler voted into the chancellorship. Yeah, the chancellorship. They scheme. There's all these backroom monetary deals that are happening. They really want him to preserve free enterprise so that they can just continue to benefit from the free market and no intervention from the government and just make tons and tons of money and not pay their workers hardly anything. Sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah. Classic stuff.
Yeah. Capitalism, when it fails pretty gloriously.
Yeah.
And lastly, the military really lobbied hard to back Hitler to become the chancellor because they loved that he hated the Treaty of Versailles after World War I so much. And by the way, a clause in that 1918 Treaty of Versailles hampered the German military so that they were like legally not allowed to grow past 100,000 militia soldiers, which is tiny for a country of 60 million.
Yeah.
That's tiny. So Hitler promises to undo this clause and help expand the military back to its former glory. That's one of the promises he makes on his kind of campaign trail while trying to get voted in as chancellor. So finally, after months of pressure from his advisors, President Hindenburg reluctantly appoints Adolf Hitler as his vice chancellor. And it's kind of like a chancellor with training wheels because it's like he has very little political experience. And so he shares that with Franz von Papen as the other chancellor. This is where it all kind of starts. It is on January 30th of 1933 that Adolf Hitler is sworn in as vice chancellor of Germany. And at that point, he still doesn't have like complete power. Hindenburg is quoted just the year before saying, "I'll make Hitler a postmaster, maybe. He can lick the stamps with my head on them." He had no respect for, no fear of Hitler. Like, he thought of him also as like he's just this small man that's trying to claw his way to the top. Like, it was almost like a condescending, like, there, you can be vice chancellor just to appease all of these people. I'm getting pressure from military generals that I respect. I'm getting pressure from people that have a ton of money, therefore a ton of power and sway in the country. I'm getting pressure from people in my own cabinet, all that. Okay?
Yeah.
Which sucks.
Yeah.
It's all these different people that thought they could kind of like use Hitler. Oh, he'll be a valuable piece in our story. But they all completely underestimated how psychotically he was drawn to power and how he would get it. And how the Nazi leadership under him would do anything to fight his battles for him behind the scenes and prop him up to power.
Yeah. No, I still am having a hard time. Like, I feel like it's like you just had to be there to understand the draw to Hitler.
I think politically there was very little draw. People really didn't want him, and he wasn't technically voted in, I guess. He was appointed by the president because of all this pressure from all these different groups lobbying hard to get him into a place of power. Because remember, he is a very compelling speaker.
Yeah.
So he would do speeches in front of military generals and say, this is what I promise you if I become a chancellor. And so it's like, do my bidding for me.
Yeah.
Whisper into the ear of the president because he's the one with the power to appoint me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of like there's some political leaders in our country today that it's like they have no qualifications to be in this position, but they, through peer pressure, through backroom deals, they get into those positions.
Yeah.
So they don't get elected like the members of the cabinet. I think it's kind of similar. The president's cabinet in the United States is by and large appointed by the president himself.
Yeah.
Okay, back to our boy General Erich Ludendorff. Previously, he wasn't our boy. He was the general that helped stage the coup, the beer hall putsch.
Oh, yeah.
And he was the one that was like, okay, we done effed up. Like, I'm just going to walk through all the bullets and, like, admit, like, take my arrest. Take the L.
Yeah.
And so General Ludendorff, now it's years later, right? Because the beer hall putsch happened in 1923. We're now a decade later. And General Ludendorff has had the opportunity to observe Hitler more and observe kind of his egomaniacal tendencies and see his personality more and more. And it's ugly. He does not like what he sees. He once supported and even worked with him. However, in a letter in 1930, so it hasn't been a decade yet, sorry. It was, it's been 7 years since the beer hall putsch.
Okay.
But he writes a letter to President Hindenburg and says, by appointing Hitler Chancellor of the Reich, you have handed over our sacred German fatherland to one of the greatest demagogues of all time. I prophesy, he uses really strong language and I love him for it, but unfortunately it falls on deaf ears. I prophesy to you this evil man will plunge our Reich into the abyss and will inflict immeasurable woe on our nation. He's almost a prophet himself. Like, he foresees horrific things happening. Maybe he read Mein Kampf because it's all there.
Yeah, that's what's also like really hard for me to understand is that was almost required for every citizen to read or own.
Later on.
Or
Not yet.
Oh, not yet.
Yeah, sorry. I do jump around in the timeline quite a
Okay.
bit. It's
Okay,
once
that's
he
good to
comes
know.
to power that it becomes required reading.
Okay, but still, it's something that he had published and like is a politician gaining power, and people,
Why wouldn't you read his book?
yeah, didn't read his book
Yes.
that told everyone exactly what he wanted to do and how he felt about certain groups of people. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I know. I
don't
have
know.
thought the same thing. Like, why aren't we reading this?
I know
He's
he's
telling you who he is. Believe
yes,
him.
yeah.
Yeah. He says, future generations will curse you in your grave for this action, President von Hindenburg.
Oh my gosh, that's actually chilling.
I know. And it's true. With Hitler's approval, the next steps happen quickly. He gets his little cronies, his Nazi leadership, Hermann Goering. If you remember the really great song from last episode, I can't remember the line about Goering, but the other person is Joseph Goebbels. Goebbels has no balls. I just remember that's the line. Has no balls at all. Anyways, so Hitler signs off on a plan that Hermann Goering and Joseph Goebbels devise.
Mm-hmm.
They plan to burn down the Reichstag, so the parliamentary building, and blame someone else.
Okay.
This is their plan,
Yeah.
and it is insane. It's either totally coincidental and historical accounts differ, but it seems to be a complete coincidence that at this very time, there's a 24-year-old radicalized communist from the Netherlands named Marinus van der Lubbe.
Okay.
And he is a known arsonist and a failed one at that. He's tried to burn down several government buildings in Berlin and has been
Okay.
unsuccessful. So, like, if you're going to burn something down,
Wait, why
maybe
do
get better at it.
I feel like it wouldn't be that hard to do.
I don't know. They're all made of concrete. I feel like that could be hard. I don't know. I'm not an arsonist.
I don't know either. But it seems like it wouldn't be that challenging, especially if he tried multiple times.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hone your craft,
Yeah.
buddy. But for whatever reason, these two things are happening at the same time and they converge.
That just seems like the whole moral of the story of like there's just so many things that happened at the exact right time.
Yeah, the
For
wrong time.
Yeah.
This
For all of
perfect
this.
storm.
Yes. Everything has just been a perfect storm for
Yes,
Hitler.
laying the groundwork for Hitler to come in and take over.
It's actually
does
like
suck.
crazy.
It is crazy.
It's like thinking about like the butterfly effect of like
Mhm.
how many small things had to happen. Like,
Butterfly effect is like if a butterfly flaps its wings,
oh yeah,
it
there's like
creates
an
this ripple
earthquake.
effect, right?
Yeah.
And then that leads to an earthquake.
Yeah.
Yes,
I don't
all
know.
these teeny tiny acts by individual actors, leads to this horrible event.
Yeah.
So in this horrible story that ends with the Holocaust, we don't have just Hitler to blame. He is the title of the episodes, of course, because he's the most famous name, but there are so many terrible people that use their freedom of choice to make objectively horrible decisions, and they know it. They know that what they're
Objectively
doing
evil
is
decisions.
evil.
Yeah.
Yes. So this young man, Marinus, from the Netherlands, he's a radicalized communist. He wants to like incite an uprising against the government in Berlin. And there are, just like the Nazis have been wanting to take control, the communists have been wanting to take control and make Germany's government a communist government.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like, well, the Nazis just beat them to it and just like did it better and better. You know? So accounts differ as to whether Marinus van der Lubbe acted completely alone or if he was approached by Goering and Goebbels and coached on how to finally successfully burn down a government building. Like,
he just needed a coach.
Okay, dum-dum. Here's a Molotov cocktail. Put it here. I don't know. Anyways, on February 27th, 1933, the Reichstag building goes up in flames. It's later uncovered that there are tunnels that lead from Hermann Goering's personal home to the Reichstag.
Oh.
And it seems that those were used, there's evidence that those were used by stormtroopers to add accelerant to the fire that was started by this young Dutch communist, Marinus.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Perhaps no meeting ever took place, but rather just seeing the Reichstag ablaze with flames, Goering and Goebbels jumped on this opportunity to make sure that it's not a failed arson attempt and it actually is successful this time.
Mm-hmm.
But, oh my gosh, we can just blame it on the communists because we can kind of do so feeling okay about it because we're not lying. The communist kid Marinus started the fire.
Yeah.
We didn't start the fire. Marinus is responsible for it. Hitler knows that now is the time and the place to start adding some new legislation and be like, hey, the communists are on our heels. They burned down our parliamentary building. We've got to do something. President Hindenburg, kind of reluctantly, but also like feeling like he has no other options, just signs a document that Hitler presents to him called For the Protection of the People and the State, which decrees, and I quote, restrictions on personal liberty, on the right of free expression of opinion, including freedom of the press, on the rights of assembly and association, and violations of the privacy of postal, telegraphic, and telephonic communications, and warrants for house searches, orders for confiscations, as well as restrictions on property, are now all permissible beyond the legal limits otherwise prescribed. Okay, so that was like very wordy, clearly written by Hitler.
Yeah.
That man does not know how to use punctuation.
Oh.
So basically, it's removing any of these restrictions that were previously placed on the government so that they couldn't encroach on people's personal liberties. For freedom of assembly, things that they can write in telegrams, telephone conversations, like they can confiscate, they can listen in. So yeah. And
they're like becoming a surveillance state.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Big Brother is watching at all times. Following this decree that Hitler has Paul von Hindenburg sign, the president, he wastes no time in basically sicking the Sturmabteilung, the stormtroopers, on any political enemies that he has all throughout Germany. So they start arresting by the thousands and hastily imprisoning. And again, remember, like just a month ago is when he became the chancellor, and he doesn't have all power yet.
Yeah.
We're in February of 1933. He just became chancellor on January 30th of 1933.
Okay.
Okay, so he starts, and it's kind of hush-hush, like, go arrest all these specific people on these lists, my political opponents, and they just started using old army barracks and, like, boarding them up and adding barbed wire to make kind of makeshift concentration camps, truly. These are,
Yeah.
like, the first
Ooh.
versions of their concentration camps.
Okay.
They harshly beat many of these political opponents, tortured many of them, sometimes to the point of death. So it's starting to get real rough. But a lot of this is happening behind the scenes, and the German public has no idea. People are just starting to kind of quietly disappear. On March 23rd, now just a month later, a freshly elected Reichstag meets in the Kroll Opera House because their parliamentary building burned down. So they're meeting in this opera house, and they consider passing a bill that Adolf Hitler has put before them called the Law for Removing the Distress of the People and the Reich.
Okay.
Okay, this guy seriously needed to just have somebody proofread.
Yeah, he needed a proofreader. He needed a copywriter.
Yeah, and he needed a therapist.
That's an understatement.
If passed, this bill that he is putting before the parliament would vote democracy out of existence, basically.
Yeah.
And establish a legal dictatorship with Adolf Hitler in charge. In a speech that he makes just before the vote, however, Hitler makes all these promises that he has no intention of keeping.
Okay.
He says, the government will make use of these powers only insofar as they are essential for carrying out vitally necessary measures. Okay? I'll only use them when it's really necessary to, like, overstep people's personal liberties and just, like, arrest people at however I want.
Yeah.
The number, and I'm back to quoting, the number of cases in which an internal necessity exists for having recourse to such a law is in itself a limited one. Hitler lied. The bill passes 441 votes for and just 84 votes against. And with that,
Dang.
democracy dies.
That's crazy.
And Hitler becomes the legal supreme ruler over Germany with a piece of paper voted on by the parliament.
That's insane.
It's, again, like, hard to go through all the documents, but it seems like many people weren't aware of every clause in that bill, and that is a form of manipulation that is used to this day, where it's like you just overwhelm people with, like, 3,000-page documents, and of course they're going to miss a few things, but then technically they signed it, so legally you're allowed to do what it is said and what's said in that document. So I think that was the case here too. He just overwhelmed them with the length of the bill.
Yeah.
And they agreed to things they weren't even totally aware of.
Yeah.
So right around this time, two things start to happen. The overt campaigns where they're, like, trying to revitalize Germany, make it a great place, remind people of the good old days where Germany was not torn by all these, like, street brawls and all this civil unrest, and the economy's back to being good again, and unemployment and inflation, everything's under control. And then the covert operation. Behind the scenes, they are starting to bring more and more people, steal them away in the night, kidnap them, and send them to these concentration camps. At this point, it is not Jews. At this point, it is their political opponents. They've got to get rid of them as soon as possible.
Okay.
Because those are the people that
And
know how to
did
get up in
they-
front of a crowd and talk and convince them away from Hitler.
Okay. And this is still, like, the early stages of concentration camps? So they
Yeah.
weren't using, like, gas chambers or anything
No,
yet?
no, nothing
Okay.
like that yet. Yeah, good question. That doesn't happen for another 5 years.
Okay.
So it starts gradual, but 1933, the end of 1933 is where it all really starts. The Holocaust,
Yeah.
which is
Okay.
the word that we use now to describe this period of time.
Do we know what the word Holocaust means?
We do, actually. If I scroll ahead,
Oh,
you
okay.
are spoilering alert. The definition of spoiler. Nobody can look it up themselves because Google is not a thing. But Prior to the 1940s, Holocaust was a word used more widely to describe any massacre or disaster. But after the horrific atrocities of this period of time, the word is now basically synonymous with the Nazi genocide of 6 million European Jews.
Okay.
And many other small populations.
Okay.
So
is that a German word?
No, it's not. I
Oh.
don't know its etymology where it comes from.
Okay.
So, but good question. So, the covert operation is stealing people away in the middle of the night and putting them in these makeshift camps with, they're like old army barracks.
Yeah.
The one out in front of people, in front of the German people, is really quite interesting. And I didn't know that this existed. And now you can see it for what it is, like just a flat out distraction of the German people so that they're not focusing on the people that are disappearing in their communities. But that is what it is. It's just a huge distraction. So
Yeah.
it is a political tool disguised as just revitalizing Germany.
Yeah.
It's called the Strength Through Joy campaign.
Okay.
Which seems kind of opposite. It should be like
Strength.
joy through strength.
Yeah.
But it focuses a lot on physical health, physical appearance, like
Mhm.
making them beautiful people that are fit and healthy and happy, and using the media. So television is a thing, taking all these really propagandy videos of Germans looking so svelte and thin and but also like ripped and tan and doing all these great things like hiking in the meadows on Sundays. Makes me think again of Sound of Music.
Yeah.
I
I was
don't have
about to say
I don't
that.
have to do that again though. And sporting events, they're ramping up sporting events a lot more.
Yeah.
It's like Club Med type things, getting facials and spa treatments, going to the beaches. They're starting to revitalize art exhibitions and making all of these things affordable for the working class by subsidizing them.
Okay.
'Kay?
Yeah. Really just distracting everyone with like.
Yes. Here's a bunch of money to
Yeah.
go spend on things that you haven't been able to afford in decades.
Yes. Yes.
Which, think about it. You would love that.
No, of course.
You've been
Of course.
impoverished. It's felt scary to walk down the street because of the brawls happening, just like people throwing bricks through windows because it's like, you're a communist. No, you're a Nazi, you know.
Yeah.
And so now everyone's getting discounted concert tickets and just like hanging out on cruise ships and beaches.
Yeah. No, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, they're doing.
I mean, and they're probably like, wow, this is evidence that Hitler is doing so amazing as our
Absolutely.
supreme leader.
Yes.
They have this false idea of Hitler because they're like him as the leader because it feels like life is improving for them when in reality, all these horrible things are happening behind the scenes. Yeah.
Which, at face value, I don't blame people at that time for not really reading the news and not really, like, if they weren't very engaged in the politics of the day, they would have no idea that, we're having all these great things happen, like, at face value, but, like, I'm starting to hear about all these missing people cases.
Yeah.
There were plenty of people that were just kind of checked out. And so
Yeah.
all they were seeing was the messaging that the Nazi regime wanted them to see. The
Yeah.
main goals of that Strength Through Joy campaign were to bridge the gap also between the middle class and the working class families, because there had been these kind of class warfare things happening, especially after the Great Depression, and people are really struggling for money. But there's also these like multi-millionaire families. And so they were making leisure more accessible to all, which really equalized everyone. Okay, it's kind of like a little communistic in making like everyone on the same level, which is kind of ironic because they hated the communists.
Yeah.
They also were really trying to, at this time, bolster the German tourism industry and start making money that way, because imports, exports were still struggling even a few years after the Great Depression started in 1929. Like, it's still struggling. So they're like, well, let's tap into the tourism industry. We don't have to produce products for that, really. We have to have cruise ships, sure, but they were able to very successfully create kind of a booming tourism industry, both within Germany, like having people go on river cruises, and without Germany, having foreigners come to their country or at least use their cruise ships to travel through the Mediterranean or in the Atlantic. So
Yeah.
cruise ships were a big
Well,
part of the Nazi
that's
party at this time. Isn't that weird?
no, that's so weird.
Yeah,
Like, he's a marketing master,
he is.
unfortunately.
Yeah. And that I think is really important to remember. Don't just believe what is being told to you on a TV or a newspaper, because the people that are doing that have an angle.
Mm-hmm.
Look at a lot of different sources
Yeah.
and like temper your ideologies that way. If you're gonna look at Fox, great, that's fine. But also look at CNN and Reuters, The Atlantic, like, Wall Street Journal, The New York Times. Diversify, you know? Because
Yeah.
information really is, and knowledge really is power.
Yeah.
And not having that information and knowledge can really lead you into being manipulated easily. So that's my soapbox there.
Okay.
Anyways, in 1938, I'm bouncing forward for just a second. By 1938, 10.3 million Germans took part in one of the hundreds of government-subsidized cruises that year.
Okay.
In 1 year. There's
That's
60
crazy.
million citizens in Germany and 10 million.
That's
So-
just so weird to think about.
Yeah.
All these people are getting and going on cruises while there's people being murdered in concentration camps. I wonder
Yes.
if getting people to travel like that was part of the strategy too, because you're kind of not noticing the people around you disappearing and
Because they
coming
may
back.
be gone on
and-
a cruise.
Yeah.
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 Oh my gosh, that's a really sinister and very astute observation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're so
I don't
smart.
know if that's true or not, but I mean, that's,
I think it's a good hypothesis.
yeah, I think so. I don't know.
The whole campaign, as I've already said, was covert. It was covertly political. Cruises don't seem political at
Uh-huh.
face value, right? Like
Yeah.
revitalizing the beaches, making them really nice places, making the bathroom facilities nicer, like that doesn't seem political. But because they had those motives, they had really evil intentions behind it, those were all covertly political moves and
Yeah.
stunts that they were pulling. These beautiful Germans are now flaunting their well-being, and the Nazi regime's power is becoming ubiquitously kind of revered.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the entire nation is pretty much drinking the Kool-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
When you think of Nazi propaganda, which all of this could not have happened without a really well-oiled propaganda machine, you must think of the name Joseph Goebbels. Remember, and Goebbels has no balls at all. This guy is spineless, okay?
Okay.
I wanted to give a brief aside about how morally bankrupt this guy is. He's just completely void of humanity, and I'm just going to read a little paragraph of some notes I took, just so you know who we're talking about for the
Okay.
next, hour. Paul Joseph Goebbels, who was born in 1897 and dies in 1945, spoiler alert, was a German.
I thought he was
He's
still going to be
dead.
alive.
Surprise! He was a German politician and philologist, which is an etymologist, aka studies languages.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know philologist was the technical title for that.
Yeah, I didn't know that could be someone's job.
It's a cool job. I
Like a
honestly envy
linguist?
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
basically. He was appointed as district leader, Gauleiter of Berlin, back when I talked about them breaking Germany into 34 districts.
Mhm.
So he was one of
Mhm.
34 like big powerful leaders at that time. So that's back in 1926. And then fast forwarding, it's very clear that he's really good at propaganda. He's very good at marketing. He's great at coming up with really kitschy taglines that catch on and people think are cool. And he gets promoted to the Reich Minister of Propaganda in 1933 when Hitler rises to full power. He remains one of Hitler's most loyal and radicalized followers until his suicide in 1945. He's known widely for his extreme anti-Semitism, and actually he's one of the loudest voices, almost pressuring all of the Nazi leaders for harsher and tighter discrimination over the years against Jews.
Okay.
Horrible human being.
Yeah.
He and his wife Magda, and this is the worst, of the little bit I'm going to tell you about him.
Oh, no.
He and his wife Magda had 6 children together. She also had another son from her previous marriage. Magda and Joseph eventually go to stay in an underground bunker with Hitler at the end of World War II, where Hitler just hunkers down for like 180 days or something like that. And this is where not only Hitler, but several other high-ranking officials choose that suicide is the only way out. However,
okay.
Joseph Goebbels and his wife Magda have all 6 of their children in the bunker.
No.
So they make the choice to drug and then poison all
Oh my
6 of their young
gosh.
children.
No.
And then take their own lives.
Oh my gosh.
And this is just a little picture of their family that Jordan will project. I know. When I learned that, it kind of
hate
made
him.
me think of the Lindsay Clancy case.
Yeah.
Where,
Oh my gosh.
but they're very different.
Yeah, very
obviously,
different,
But
but
killing your own children.
I can't even fathom the idea of killing your own child.
I know. Me neither.
Oh, that's making me angry.
Yes. It's called
My
filicide
gosh.
when you kill your own children. So 6-time filicide. So now we're going to move into a period of time. It just keeps getting darker and darker. I'm going to keep saying that.
my
and
gosh.
It's going to be like, oh, cool. 1935. So we're progressing through time. This is when something called the Nuremberg Laws are introduced officially. And I want you to think of the Jim Crow laws in the United States that existed back when segregation was alive and well in the United States. Specifically in the southern states, they were horrible, dehumanizing laws that made it so that Black Americans, American citizens, and white American citizens were segregated in all the ways you can think of, riding different buses or different parts of the bus, or, Black Americans were disallowed to sit on certain park benches because there were signs that would say it's explicitly only for white Americans. Again, saying a lot of this like kind of pains me. I'm just the messenger of this information, but it really pains me to think that that was a time, and we have so many movies and books about that. And I think of that movie where those, I think it's 4 Black American women work at NASA and are like playing a huge pivotal role in helping them get a rocket into space. Do you remember that one? And
Yeah.
there's I can't remember. I'm blanking on what it's called right now.
Hidden Figures.
Yes, Hidden
Yeah.
Figures. And she has to run like across the entire NASA campus to go to the bathroom because there's no bathroom designated for. And I'm using this in
I
quotation.
haven't
they call
actually
them
seen this movie,
colored
but
people.
I should watch it.
It is a fabulous movie. I just think watching movies like that is really important. As a white woman, I am unaware of the privilege that I have. It's like a fish swimming in water. You don't realize that it's there until you're out of it and you're viewing it from above. And then you can see, oh, I've been surrounded by this cushiony thing that has kept me protected. And I think watching movies like that, reading books like, I'm blanking on this one too. I'm really bad at remembering names and titles, but Ibrahim, he wrote How to Be an Anti-Racist. You don't want to just not be racist. You want to be racist and racism. I think it's really important for people to read those books because you don't realize how much privilege you have until you try and see it from the other perspective of people that have been segregated and treated as second-class citizens for generations. So this period of time in Germany starts to look like that. That's how it's kind of like they take baby steps to kind of indoctrinate German people into thinking like already they're anti-Semitic. A lot of people just think Jews are the root of all their problems and that they are like cunning and they hoard wealth and they're taking all their jobs and they have all these things that they say to justify hating Jewish people. But this is the first time it's like put in pen on paper into actual legislation.
Yeah.
Okay, in 1935.
Okay.
And so, and it actually was somewhat inspired by the Jim Crow laws. So, unfortunately, Hitler looked to America and saw what America was doing to segregate Black people and white people and said, let's do that.
Wow.
Which is really sad
Very
that
sad.
America was...
Like, being inspired by that is dark.
A German-American political theorist and philosopher named Hannah Arendt, famously observed, "We became aware of the existence of a right to have rights and a right to belong to some kind of organized community only when millions of people emerged who had lost and could not regain these rights." Again, it's like the fish living in water versus out of water. You don't realize what rights you live with until they're stripped away from you. And she's saying that suddenly millions and millions of Jews had that experience. A PhD named Jacob Flaws, who wrote, he's a PhD in history, and for the National World War II Museum in New Orleans, he writes, "Historically, this position of being stateless subjects without rights creates the preconditions to justify dehumanization, deportation, and genocide. A
Okay.
process that began in earnest with the passage of the Nuremberg Laws." So when these laws get passed, that's when it suddenly becomes legal to just mistreat this massive group of people. Some of the laws are as follows. 3 or 4 Jewish grandparents is what technically made you a Jew. They kind of had to like arbitrarily make up how do we define a Jew.
Okay.
Yeah, so Hitler and all of the high-ranking Nazi officials just kind of like made it up. Having 3 to 4 Jewish grandparents is how they define it. You didn't have to
Okay.
practice Judaism.
Okay, this is gonna sound maybe like ignorant.
No, it's
and
fine.
maybe we cut this out. Was it really challenging for them to just like look at someone and know that they're Jewish? Because I feel like
Not necessarily. So it's known as like an ethno-religion where there's
I know there's certain
ethnicity.
features associated with Jewish people, but I mean, maybe just because I'm not always looking for it. Sometimes I learn that someone's Jewish and I'm surprised. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, no. Or just their names. Like I've learned to
There are
recognize
Jewish-sounding
it
names.
more, but because I mean, I didn't grow up around a lot of Jewish people. And so I'm sure in Germany at this time specifically, it was a lot easier for them to differentiate, but they are like mostly white. So
Yeah.
I mean, I know not necessarily white, but
Slightly darker complected white. Yeah, like
yeah,
olive-toned skin.
I feel like there were probably people that could pass.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But they made it so that you really had to declare whether or not you were Jewish.
Okay.
So people would try really, you have to like get documentation done. And to be able to declare and have documentation stating that you are not a Jew, you have to show your genealogy. You have to show your grandparents. And again, it was kind of a made up, befuddled process, but they'd see your genealogy and determine whether or not you had 3 or 4 Jewish grandparents and if that made you a Jew. Because, of course, at this time, there's intermarrying between a lot of different
I was gonna
ethnicities
say.
and
Well, that was kind of
religions.
also why I was gonna say it could have been confusing. Is that there are people that are like, probably half Jewish, and how are you supposed to differentiate between
Yep, so
everyone?
that is what they chose to make their line in the sand. If you have 3 or 4 Jewish grandparents,
Okay.
you're a Jew.
Got it.
It doesn't matter who your parents are. Your dad could be blonde and Aryan, but I kind of hate saying that word over and over again. I feel like it's like so triggering.
Yeah.
But
It's
it's
okay.
used a
I mean,
lot.
it's contextual.
Yeah, that's true. So if you were found to have 3 to 4 Jewish grandparents and you are declared to be Jewish, you get your German citizenship stripped from you. You're no longer considered German. You just have
Oh
no
my
country.
gosh.
You don't have a nationality. So
Okay.
at this point, they're only able to do this in Germany. But remember, as they start to annex and take over other countries bordering them in the coming years, they start doing this to Austrian Jews and to Czechoslovakian Jews and to French Jews. Okay.
Yeah.
They started to, in these Nuremberg laws, they officially removed the legal right of anyone non-Jewish to marry anyone Jewish. So, and any extramarital relations, sorry. So sexual relations between Jews and Aryans has become forbidden by law. It's become illegal.
Whoa. Okay.
They also started to forbid Jews using public spaces like parks, and no formal education was permitted for any Jews beyond the age of 14.
My gosh. Okay.
Yes. And more and more laws like this had them living smaller and smaller lives, and gradually they pushed them into ghettos. These physical communities where they force Jews to start living like 14 people in one tiny room with barely like a sad excuse for a mattress, a bed. And so these Jewish ghettos begin to form all throughout Germany.
It's awful.
It is really devastating. I've had the opportunity, like I had a really privileged childhood, and I was able to live in Europe, and I was able to visit some of the old ghettos. There was one in Venice. So again, like, remember, they annex all these other countries, and there's ghettos that pop up later, not right now, but and it's really horrifying that suddenly a government can go from being a democracy to this and taking away the rights of a giant group of the population and declaring them kind of subhuman to the rest of the population.
Yeah.
And I try to imagine like what it would have been to live at that time as a Jewish person. What would it have been like, or as a non-Jewish person, like seeing this happen but feeling like I'm just like imagining me, Julianne, with 3 kids and a husband and like a few odd jobs. Like, what would I do? I would feel pretty powerless. I'm just one voice. Like, how do I stand up to this horrifying scene that I start to see? Bathrooms are being suddenly labeled. There are signs appearing on park benches that say only this type of person can sit here. It would feel very helpless.
Yeah.
I would care. I would have such a bleeding heart, but I wouldn't really know what to do.
No, it reminds me of The Nightingale.
Oh, I haven't read that. Kristen
you
Hanna?
haven't read? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know.
Julie.
I know. It's a travesty.
You need to read The Nightingale.
Okay. Is it about this time period?
Yeah, it's World War II in France, but it's about 2 sisters, one of which wants to be involved in the war, and she becomes like a spy.
Okay.
And the other is just a mom with her kids, and the town that they live in gets occupied by the Nazis, and they have Nazi soldiers, or a Nazi soldier living with them. And there's kind of a conflict between the sisters of like,
oh, how could you
do this? Yeah.
How could you let this Nazi man live in your house?
Yeah, they have a Jewish neighbor, and it's, I don't know, I want to recommend it, but it's also like
dark,
devastating. That is a very sad book, but so well written. I love Kristen Hanna.
There's so many different books and movies. It's kind of impossible to read everything, like fiction, nonfiction, that's been written about this period of time, because it is so mind-boggling to people. Like, how does this happen? How does a nation turn its back on a big group of their own population? But I can't really do it in this episode or this series. Like, I can't do it in like 8 hours that you're spending with us on this. So even I can't fully describe that. But I definitely encourage people to read all of these accounts and books, because it is really helpful, I think, to read books and see like, okay, I could see how you could grow kind of complacent, because the sister that you're referring to that has a Nazi live in their house, I'm sure they were highly pressured into it. I'm sure they weren't like, we'd love a Nazi soldier to live with us. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were like, you have to, or we'll kill your son, or we'll take your son and put him in the Hitler Youth and brainwash him and make him part of the military
Fun
at
fact,
age 14.
They're actually turning it into a movie, and the Fanning sisters are playing the sisters.
Okay, that seems like a perfect casting.
Yeah.
And then the sister that goes off to be a spy probably feels like this righteous piety, like she's better than her sister, when she just doesn't understand what it's like to be a civilian that's trapped in a small village where you're pressured to tell on your neighbors and give up any Jewish people you know that are in hiding,
Yeah.
but you're risking your own family's safety because they threaten you with, we're going to murder your whole family if you're harboring any Jewish people. You know, you're put in an impossible position, but I can absolutely see how the spy sister is like, you're not doing enough,
Yeah.
you know?
And there's also, like, you see the German Nazi, like, you kind of see the mind of, like, okay, we're doing this because we're told to, but, like, starting to realize, like, okay, this
doesn't align with how what I
yeah.
believe.
Yeah, he's, like, actually, like, pretty compassionate in some scenes or in some
good.
parts of the book. And anyway, if you've read it, you know. But
Okay.
it's, yeah, no, I think that a lot of people involved, whether just citizens or even, like, members of the military, were questioning things. But it's like, what am I supposed to do? I'm either going to do what I'm told or I'm going to die, or the people that I love are going to die.
Yeah. And all your rights have really been stripped away. There's not like, you can't go to your governor and be like, hey, this is wrong. It's like your governor is a part of it. You know, the town leader, I'm like blanking on the names of any of, I don't know, like your mayor. You know, like your mayor, you can't talk to your mayor. You can't like have a town hall or a city hall meeting and like complain about the Nazis because they are in control of everything. Now, in around 1936 is when kind of phase 2 of concentration camps starts to happen. And these are better referred to, I think, as labor camps, because that's what they are. Heinrich Himmler is kind of in charge of the concentration camps.
Yeah.
That man
Himmler
is so...
He was part of the song.
Yes.
Himmler was
got
similar.
something similar.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that song is actually really helpful. It's like the 4 main people you need to know in the Nazi Party.
Yeah.
So in 1936, Himmler begins the second wave of concentration camps. Instead of just being like old barracks or like abandoned gymnasiums and things like that with barbed wire, like a really horrifying gymnasium turned concentration camp.
Yeah.
Now they're actually building them using the prisoners as free labor. Okay? So that is how they kind of start as labor camps. They're constructing their own concentration camps and then the concentration camps of future prisoners. The emphasis is still not yet on imprisoning Jewish Germans in concentration camps. Right now, it's just kind of like the Jim Crow laws, which in Germany is the Nuremberg Laws, is how you can kind of refer to that. Right now, they are now focusing instead of just on political prisoners, which it was kind of phase 1, now they're starting to go after asocials, anyone that they are just embarrassed of and don't want in their society. Because, of course, to have a strong, unified Germany, you need to only have people that are fit, strong, attractive, all these things, have no medical issues, and have no addictions to medications or drugs or alcohol. Okay, so
that's so extreme.
Especially, the hypocrisy just kills me here because later on, my eyes just went so wide. But
we're clipping that.
Okay. And cross-eyed. I'm so angry I went cross-eyed. It's so infuriating because I'm going to tell you a lot about Hitler's like health journey / decline later on in his life, and I'm going to just leave that as a little teaser because he is such a hypocrite when it comes to becoming drug addicted. Okay. If you're not part of this vision that the Nazis have of like a healthy, strong, successful Aryan race, then you started to disappear into concentration camps. This included alcoholics, homeless people, anyone that was unemployed, disabled, anyone that was disabled.
My gosh.
Anyone in a wheelchair. They started to target them and kidnap them and send them to concentration camps.
I know. Okay, I feel like earlier I said that's so extreme, as if like any of it's not.
I know. No, I didn't take it that way.
Okay, good.
It's all
I
extreme.
was just thinking that, and like hopefully people don't think I was thinking any of this was like rational.
Right. Oh, some of this is just common. No, it's not. We're not saying that.
No, all of it is extreme, but just starting to even get to the point of they were running out of people to put in these concentration camps, it feels like.
Almost. They're kind of like whitewashing so that
like,
the only people left are those without any medical issues and that have a good job and that are healthy and fit and Aryan. So like white and blonde. And the last group were homosexuals. Anyone that did not fit this perfect mold that they had in their minds, their twisted freaking Nazi minds, about like a mother and a father and a ton of children that are white and blonde and Aryan.
Yeah.
So those people were whisked away to these camps. And this begins the 4-year plan preparing for World War II. And World War II begins in 1945. So right
That's
now,
so crazy how
leading up to
recent
that.
in history that is.
I know.
Oh my
My
gosh.
grandpa, who has now passed away, but just he actually passed away like 10 years ago, but he served in World War II. And there's plenty of people alive today that served in World War II.
That's so insane that this is less than 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
It really is. This 4-year plan is to get Germany ready for full-blown war. Goering becomes in charge of that 4-year plan and militarizing any able-bodied young man. And again, it starts at like age 10, because in 4 years he'll be 14, and that's totally fine. So child soldiers was
That's
something that they didn't bat an eyelash at. Fast forwarding a tiny bit more, because these episodes aren't supposed to be like a complete account of World War II, like there's plenty of other sources for that. I'm really just hitting like the bullet points of how that progresses, okay? Which countries they attack first, all that. So I'm going to talk briefly about the takeover of Czechoslovakia. On November 5th, 1937, the Habsburg Note from a meeting during which Hitler tells all of his generals about his grand plans to annex Austria and Czechoslovakia happens. It's as if he's telling them that he wants them to fulfill these territorial goals in the event that he dies. It's interesting, he's almost constantly planning to die. Just like be murdered or assassinated or just accidentally die, I don't know, one way or another. And he has so many scrapes with death. It's really unfortunate that a lot of them didn't happen. But again, even if he did die before all of this happened, there are horrible people waiting in the aisle ready to take over for him. So this Habsburg Note declares his plans to take over Austria and Czechoslovakia, and he shares it with all of his generals. He becomes obsessed with taking over this specific area called Sudetenland. It's a mountain range in Czechoslovakia where a lot of Germans live.
okay.
Beautiful mountain towns. And once the Nazis do ultimately successfully occupy that mountain range, Czechoslovakia has no other natural defenses. Like they've taken their highest point and they can just like take over the rest of the country. So Czechoslovakia also doesn't have like strong military defenses, and it's actually quite simple for Germany to take over. So they've got Czechoslovakia now, and they're like one of their annexed territories. Next, they go for Austria. In 1938, German soldiers are kind of greeted in an enthusiastic way by crowds because Austria neighbors Germany. They've heard all of the great things that the Nazi regime has brought to the German people. They're flourishing. All these new gymnasiums and the cruises. And so they're actually quite enthusiastic, and they treat them kind of like heroes marching in on Austria.
Okay.
Much to the surprise and well, I can't think of the word, but they're really pleased that they're being treated so well coming into Austria because they are taking over. Hitler travels to Braunau am Inn, if you remember, that's the small like Alp town that he was born in. And then he travels through Linz, which is where he grew up in Austria as a child. And then they make their way to Vienna with this long procession of Nazi soldiers.
Okay.
And this is a real like personal victory for Hitler to be returning to the place where he was once a homeless man living off of soup kitchens and just barely a human.
Well, also probably just thinking about his childhood too. That was where his abusive father, and he has a lot of resentment towards.
Yeah. So this is like
that
stroking
time.
his ego, which doesn't need any help.
Yeah.
Like, oh, look at me. I'm returning to this place, reclaiming it as the victor. So yeah, this is not good for his ego, and he just continues to go to his head. And he also kind of loves that he's bringing Vienna into the fold. of the German National Socialist Party.
Okay.
Hitler annexes Austria and incorporates it immediately into the German Reich. And for Austrian Jews, this is horrible. They are one of the larger populations of Jews within Europe. The exclusion and segregation of Jews that they passed with the Nuremberg Laws in Germany, they enact them almost immediately in Austria. Park benches have signage that reads, "No Jews allowed." Banners are starting to be unfurled and hung from buildings that say, "Germans don't buy from Jews."
Okay.
Signs that say, "Watch out, Jews." Very fear-mongering
Yes. Yeah,
type
that
of
was the word I was
propaganda.
about to say. Yeah.
Tons of anti-Jewish persecution begins, looting their stores, throwing bricks through their store windows, Molotov cocktails to burn down their stores, beating Jewish leaders in the streets, and even burning down their synagogues.
Oh my gosh.
So there's an event called the Night of the Broken Glass, which occurs in Austria, and it results in approximately 100 German Jewish people beaten to death. Hundreds of others marched away immediately to concentration camps. On January 30th, 1939, this is now exactly the 6-year mark since Hitler has become the official Reich Chancellor of Germany and the German Empire now.
Okay.
It is on this day in 1939 that Hitler delivers a speech with catastrophic effects. Hundreds of German Jewish refugees have fled to Austria and Germany, have fled Austria and Germany with visas. They actually do have visas for Cuba. When they arrive in Havana, however, after they were on a large ship, I believe, yes, they arrive to Havana, Cuba on a large ship. The ship has no choice when the Cuban police and immigration officers deny all of their visas. They have no choice but to turn somewhere else. And so they try to land in the United States, and they're denied again because their visas were for Cuba. And the ship just returns to Germany, and all of these German and Austrian Jews immediately get taken to concentration camps.
Oh my gosh.
Goebbels even writes in the Nazi propaganda magazine at this time, "You see, nobody wants them. At least we are building camps for them." Oh, that actually was hard to say. War is finally declared on Germany after they attack Poland. So they've taken over Czechoslovakia and Austria. And now, on September 3rd of 1939, Britain and France officially enter the group chat. And they say, "We declare war on you," and that really starts World War II for the Allied forces. Previously, just a couple days before they declare war on them, they warned Germany, "Do not attack Poland. If you do, this is a clear act of aggression. We will declare war on you." And what Germany decides to do with that information is to stage numerous fake attacks from the Polish to them. They're really trying to pretend that the Polish are the aggressors, as if Britain and France will be duped by that.
Yeah.
So Germany tries to make it seem like we were simply defending ourselves, the Nazis, and they see right through it. Britain and France see right through it and declare war. German Air Force bombs several Polish train stations because they want to make it impossible for Polish people to leave. And this is really where the name, the Holocaust, is officially starting to be used. I am going to talk about some really heavy stuff right now, so trigger warning for a lot of death. And we are not going to go full into the Holocaust in this episode. We will likely have a final episode, just so you know. But
Okay.
around 1941 is when the Nazis begin to wage two very different wars. They've already been waging one war kind of behind the scenes and whisking people away to concentration camps, but now they're not even going to pretend anymore. They're just doing it like right out in the open.
Blatantly.
Yes, for anyone to see. They have the military war and the civilian war. And the military war is using militia that are trained, and they're fighting against the UK and France and the Soviets' Red Army and trying to gain territories for their Lebensraum, the German word for living space. If you remember, they want to conquer all of these neighboring nations so that they have space to grow, which is so freaking entitled.
Yeah.
And then the other war that they're waging is the civilian war. This is really where the Holocaust begins, and this word Holocaust has now become, like you asked previously, the word Holocaust now is really just used for this genocide.
Okay.
Not only did they kill 6 million European Jews across many European countries, they also killed populations of Romani people, which it now is somewhat of a derogatory term, but at the time they called them gypsies,
Yeah.
disabled individuals, Soviet prisoners of war, anyone that is homosexual, political dissidents, and many, many more. This lasts all throughout Hitler's reign, which Germany refers to as the Third Reich, which lasts from 1933 to 1945. And it remains one of the clearest examples in history of institutionalized evil. They passed laws for all of these things.
It's so unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. It starts as ghettos, as we've talked about. It moves on to concentration camps and then eventually extermination camps. And I don't think we'll have time to go into detail on the extermination camps today, but we will go into a little bit more detail next time.
Okay.
I actually have been to 3 of the concentration camps. Two of them are very well known. The third one that I've been to is, I don't think, quite as well known, but I didn't know that there were 1,200 concentration camps throughout Europe.
1,200? I
Yeah,
had
because
no idea.
we only really were taught about in middle school and high school, and I did, when I took my history courses, it was only like Auschwitz, Dachau, and a couple of
Yeah.
others that I knew of. And so when I lived in Europe as a kid, my family did travel to Auschwitz and Dachau. And we also went to one it's like outside of Warsaw, I think, called Terezin. And that was an extermination camp, not just a concentration camp. They had like ovens.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And I had the opportunity to walk through those facilities as a kid. I don't want to like get emotional because I don't want it to seem like I'm faking or being manipulative or whatever, but it's just so, I don't have words, for what that experience was like, going through those facilities and seeing giant rooms with glass windows, and behind them were thousands of suitcases. And you walk into the next room, and the next room has like probably 50 feet of human hair. Just piles and piles of human hair, 50 feet long, probably, and like 8 feet tall of human hair, because they shaved their hair off when they got there to make them look that much less human and more skeletal. And then you'd go into the next room, and it was a room filled with shoes. Thousands and thousands of pairs of shoes. And the next room was like watches and necklaces. And just knowing that these were personal items that these people wore, and, they lived normal lives, and they probably chose what watch they wanted to wear that day. And then this happened to them. And there are people that deny that this happened. And I just am like, okay, you have no idea what you're talking about. And you clearly have not visited these places, Auschwitz, Dachau, Terezin, and the 1,200 concentration and extermination camps. So we need to talk about these things, because forgetting that it happened or not talking about it because it's too sad, I think does a huge disservice to those people that went through that period of time. And I think it really is like showing a lot of respect to study it and analyze it and like, let's do better. Let's figure out how to not repeat this ever again, and how to teach our children and our communities and like stand for what is right. How do we stand up against hatred and bigotry, So I think that's why I really like to study this stuff. It's very heartbreaking, and you can hear the emotion in my voice and see it in my eyes. It's really hard to like imagine being one of those people, or seeing like my friends and family treated that way, or being one of the helpless members of the German Aryan group who's like, I don't want to be in this group.
Yeah.
I'm not a bigot. I love my brother and sister, and I don't know what to do. So everyone suffered.
Yeah.
in different ways. In these concentration camps, human beings were reduced to a tattooed number on their arm usually. Families were separated and put in different homes with, I don't even want to call them homes, different facilities with women were in one, men were in a different one, children in a different one. And so you don't see your family. You're with mostly strangers.
Yeah.
Everyone is being starved. Starvation is used as a weapon. Their bodies were treated as disposable. And the final chilling aspect is that there was a bureaucracy around all of it. They had train schedules to ship these people from one location to another to their death. They had like administrative tasks where they kept records of these things, which is another reason that like anyone who denies this happened,
This
like,
is so well
do
documented.
you not know how to read? Yeah.
Yeah.
There are so many documents because they kept good documents. Right now, I'm going to talk about one of the most horrifying events that I have really studied about the Holocaust, and it's in 1941. This was before they started using gas chambers and like the furnaces. It's just like horrifying to even say that. In 1941, they started something called the Holocaust by bullets, is what we now know it as. Hitler created Nazi killing squads of SA soldiers. The killing squads were called the Einsatzgruppen, and they were comprised of kind of sharpshooters that had been training for this, and they ended up it's really hard to talk about this. They ended up committing a horrible massacre in a place called Babyn Yar.
Okay.
September 1941, Kiev, Ukraine. This is one of the most atrocious accounts of the Holocaust by bullets. The Germans conquer Kiev, and once the Soviet Union Red Army evacuates, the bombs they have left behind begin detonating on German Nazi troops.
Okay.
The Soviet Union and the Nazis were for just a brief second in league with one another, but they turn on each other very quickly.
Okay.
So they purposefully leave behind all these bombs so that the German troops will get exploded. In retaliation, the Germans round up around 33,000 men, women, and children, some babies, and corral them to a ravine on the edge of the city where they force them to take most of their clothing off. And they leave these clothes in massive piles, as well as personal effects like teddy bears, purses, boots, hats, jewelry, etc., just a few hundred feet away from this ravine called Babyn Yar Ravine. Over the course of just 2 days, September 29th and 30th, a horror beyond imagination takes place in this place, Babyn Yar, Kiev, Ukraine. Disgustingly, killing this many people by having them line up on the edge of the ravine and kill them with a gun, shooting them in the head or in the heart, one by one. It ended up being so hard on the SA soldiers that they were almost constantly drinking alcohol. And so they started to miss-shoot and have to take multiple shots on many of the people. They were almost completely drunk in order to cope with the emotional trauma of shooting that many people, men, women, and children. And the disgusting part about it is that the Nazi leaders start to really think about the effect that this is having, the traumatizing emotional effect this is having on their troops.
Yeah.
It's like unimaginable. In fact, Nazi leader Heinrich Himmler expresses concern over the mental state of his troops, shooting this many people per day. Yeah. Thousands of people they are executing per day. And so they estimate that in that span of time, about 1.5 million people get murdered over the course of a few weeks using that execution style.
It's so awful.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
They were prioritizing the emotional state of the killers
that's
over
crazy.
the victims.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I feel so bad for forcing these people
young men
to And
kill all
that is
these people.
so awful. I mean, they clearly were really struggling with what they were doing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still like it's really hard because you need to find someone to blame and you want to blame these young men, but it's like they've been conditioned for this their entire lives. And then it's just reminding me of Jojo Rabbit when
Mm-hmm.
it's like he's suddenly fighting in the war and he's like, this is not what I thought this was. This is not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing all these people around me die and I'm severely traumatized
I'm confronted with what death actually is.
and confronted with what your country and your military that you're a part of is really doing when
Mm-hmm.
it's like the wool is removed from their eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. Heinrich Himmler asks for a demonstration so that he can just check in on his soldiers to see how the executions are going. And so during an execution of 100 Jewish civilians, he gets, trigger warning, blood splatter and brain matter get onto his uniform, and it makes him so sick to his stomach that he vomits. And that is when he reports to the top Nazi leadership that this needs to happen some other way. We can't use guns. The Holocaust of bullets is an ineffective way to take care of the Jewish problem because we can't handle it as troops. My troops can't handle it. They're emotionally traumatized. We need some other final solution to the
Oh my
Jewish
gosh.
question. I finally have that in my notes. So that was how they kept phrasing it. And so this is when they get really like business plan like about it. They come up with all these ideas and logistics on how they can have a final solution to the Jewish question, which, by the way, they keep wording it that way on purpose so that they have like plausible deniability later
Mm-hmm.
when they know
Oh, okay.
they're going to be brought
Yeah.
to answer for
Okay. I
this.
see.
And they are. And I do want to, in the next episode, talk about that trial when not Hitler, because he's a total coward and takes his own life, but so that he doesn't have to have justice
Yeah.
meted out to him. But the Nuremberg trial is really incredible because they indict all of these horrible men for the war crimes that they commit. So a tiny amount of justice does end up being served, just for all of us out there wondering.
Okay.
And if you know that part of history, you haven't been wondering, but I didn't know that part of history super well. So we have historical written records of all of these horrible, chilling administrative details. We have
Yeah.
train schedules transporting civilians from their hometowns to one of 1,200 concentration camps. We have order forms and transport forms for the cyanide pellets that they end up using to poison people in the gas chambers. We have details on how the gas chambers were designed and constructed. We
Okay.
have written details on how they transported high volumes of dead bodies to crematoriums to dispose of them.
It's so disturbing.
The idea that they were using organizational administrative skills for this purpose is just so, like, I feel sick to my stomach, honestly,
It's
talking about
so
it.
void of humanity. Yeah,
Yeah.
humanity. I was going to say humanness.
Yeah.
Humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes a group of subhumans to allow themselves to do this. Just completely shut off their ability to love and have compassion for and like not be disturbed by the gruesome,
Mm-hmm.
horrific things that they're doing. So I'm going to add a few more details and then leave it there because this is a very heavy episode. Later on in the Nuremberg trials, they are able to get justice because there is footage captured by the Nazis themselves of these concentration camps and these extermination sites. It is some of the most damning evidence presented in that Nuremberg trial. You can see stacks of human bodies in rooms, and you can see large pits filled with bodies, stripped of all their clothing and their humanity. And thank goodness they were so stupid that they kept incredible records because it is undeniable that they did all of these things. This was a part of history, and we know for a fact that they
Yeah.
did all of these things.
Yes.
And they shut off their ability to feel and have compassion for.
It's so hard for me to wrap my head around.
Me too.
I actually can't.
I think it's really good that we can't wrap our heads around it. My brain won't allow me to go to that place. When I've watched documentaries and even like dramatized movies about it, those really get to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate the artists, the directors, the actors for taking so much care in acting them out and presenting this part of history to us so that we can, at least for a moment, kind of understand it, see what happened.
Yeah.
Because just reading about it and even hearing about it, it's like, that's just too insane. Like, I don't want to believe it, so I almost can't believe that this really happened.
I know.
But then I actually saw the footage because they show it in some of these documentaries, and it is so horrifying.
I think of in middle school when we watched like The Boy in the Striped Pajamas.
Oh, yeah.
And I did not know what I was getting into when we started that. I was almost like, this was a little, looking back, I'm like, that's a little
Dark.
much for middle schoolers. I think I was in 6th grade when I watched that. And
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah. We had read The Diary of Anne Frank, and then we watched The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, and everyone was just sobbing
Yeah,
in the
of
classroom.
course.
I don't think any of us really understood what we were watching till the end when you realize what's happened, and everyone around me, you're just hearing sniffles in the classroom. I'm like,
But it
I feel
stuck
like
with you to
yeah.
this day.
No, that is one I cannot watch again. Like, that movie is burned into my
Actually,
brain.
I haven't seen the movie, but I
Oh my
have read
gosh.
the book, The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. And my family read the Anne Frank diary via like CD in our car while driving through
Mhm.
these concentration camps that we were able to go see when I lived in Switzerland as a kid. And I remember this funny part where she talks about her period. Like, there's details that you don't think about. Like, women still had that happening during the war. Not in concentration camps because they're not getting enough food for that to function properly in their bodies. But Anne Frank I just remember it was me and my 3 younger brothers still living at home. My older 2 siblings had already left the house and gone to college. So it was just my 3 little brothers who are 6 years younger than me, 8 years, and like 11 years younger than me. So I was probably 16 years old at the time. They're much younger. One of my brothers is like 10 years old. The next one is, I don't know, like 8 years old, and then like 4 or whatever. So they don't really understand the book, and we're listening to it via CD. But I do remember them Anne Frank talking about her period, and my little brothers being like, "Ew!" And it was just it was a welcome bit of levity,
Mhm.
just laughter when it was a really heavy trip to take as a family. But it was really good, very educational. I'm glad that my parents prioritized like history trips like that when I was younger.
Yeah, that's really like formative.
They did that a lot. I have a
Yeah.
lot of respect for how they tried to immerse me in history as a kid.
I mean, when you're in Europe, like,
Yeah.
there's so much. The United States is not
It's
that
much
old as
younger.
we're 250.
Yeah.
Or like, there's so much more
Mm-hmm.
in Europe. So that's
Yeah.
really cool that you were able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Appreciated it a lot.
Yeah. I don't know if this is like, maybe we cut this out. This is like not, I don't know, appropriate maybe,
Just
but
say
remember when Justin Bieber went to the Anne Frank house?
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Oh
No.
my gosh, Justin Bieber. Yeah, Justin Bieber went to the Anne Frank house and like signed on the book like she would have been a believer.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny. He probably would have been, to be
I
honest.
know. And it's like he got in a lot of trouble
Of
for
course
that,
he
but
did.
it's like
But
kind
it's
of
like-
funny. He didn't mean
It's
anything.
like a harmless
Yeah,
thing
like,
to do.
and he was probably right, as we are believers.
Maybe we'll get in a lot of trouble for
I
saying
don't
that
know.
too,
Maybe
but-
cut that out. Maybe
okay.
cut that part out.
No,
I don't know.
I think I wanted to end on something a little lighthearted, making fun of Hitler. A little teaser for next episode. we are going to talk a little bit more about Hitler's health journey as he like really devolves into like insanity in the last few years of his
Okay.
life, and he really kind of loses his mind, like his marbles. In 1936, publicly, Hitler portrayed himself as this sexually abstinent man, and also like, you know, like married to Germany, and
Mm-hmm.
also abstinent from any vice. Like sex is not a vice, but whatever, he treated it like that.
Uh-huh.
So any stimulants, like he never drank alcohol, and he didn't drink coffee, he never smoked, he abstained from eating meat, he was vegetarian.
Okay.
And he was like very, have you ever heard the joke, like, how do you know if someone's a vegetarian? Because they tell you about it constantly.
Uh-huh.
He really propped himself up as like the standard of health to which everyone should look. But in reality, he had so many health issues. He was riddled with gut issues.
Okay.
He
He had
developed,
IBS.
pretty much.
He was an IBS girly.
Absolutely. He developed skin rashes, headaches. He had like all these bowel and gut issues, bouts of explosive flatulence.
Okay.
And that is a quote. People occasionally
Okay.
referred to him as the great farter of history.
Okay. Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah, he was a
What?
stinky boy.
What the heck? See, like everything I learn about him, I'm just more
He's
disgusted in
gross.
every single way. He's
Yeah.
disgusting.
Like every aspect of like life that you can be a gross person in, he is gross. Like emotionally gross, like physically gross, spiritually gross, like just morally bankrupt, awful human being.
No, like literally everything
Have
about
we
him.
said that Hitler's bad?
Yeah, no.
Have we failed to mention?
Yeah, hopefully
Anyways,
people
the great
can.
farter of history
That's crazy.
instead of like the great Führer, great farter. Anyways, I
Oh
thought that
my
was pretty
gosh,
great.
that is good. I'm glad to know that about him, actually.
Me too. So that's a little teaser. We're going to dive into that more, and how, because he has all these health issues, he starts to seek out help from a doctor that is a complete quack.
Okay.
Dr. Theodor Morell.
Okay.
Okay.
I can't wait to learn more.
He becomes Hitler's personal physician and takes him down a real dark path.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So you've got that
The
to...
dark path.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, I didn't even do that on purpose. In case you didn't catch that. So next episode, we'll talk about his horrible health and how
Okay.
it like leads him down to like all of the crazy decisions that he makes are probably because his mind is not in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's lost his mind. And then we'll also talk a little bit more about concentration camps, and that's about it.
Okay.
So thank you for joining us today. This has been another episode of Pathological. We're your hosts, Julianne Boyd.
And Cassidy Shirts.
See you next time.